Why everyone is talking about government checks. Again, as we begin a new year, one question seems to be everywhere. At church gatherings, in family group chats, between neighbors, even on the evening news, people are asking the same thing. Is the federal government sending out checks again? Are we getting another stimulus? That question alone tells us something important. It tells us there is confusion, and when money is involved, confusion can be dangerous, especially for older Americans who rely on fixed incomes and careful planning. Right now, conversations about checks are spreading faster than the facts. Short videos, headlines, and social media posts are blending half-truths into something that sounds comforting but isn't always accurate. Many people hear the word check and immediately think of the stimulus payments from the pandemic years, money that arrived unexpectedly and helped families stay afloat during a crisis. But here's the key point that needs to be said clearly and calmly. What people are talking about today is not the same thing. There are discussions happening, yes. There are changes, adjustments, and refunds being mentioned. But that does not automatically mean new money, extra money, or guaranteed relief is on the way. And when we don't slow this conversation down, good people can be misled. They can make rushed financial decisions, or worse, they can become easy targets for scams that thrive on hope and urgency. So before assumptions turn into expectations and expectations turn into disappointment, it's important to pause and understand what is really happening beneath all the noise. How different conversations got blended into one big rumor. To understand why so many people believe new checks are coming, we need to look at how information is spreading right now. Over the past several months, many separate financial topics have been discussed at the same time. You may have heard people mention tax refunds, others talk about relief programs, some bring up dividends, benefits, or possible future payments. On their own, each of these topics has a very specific meaning. But online, they rarely stay separate. Social media tends to simplify complex information into short, emotional messages. Headlines are written to grab attention, not to explain details. And when people repeat what they hear without full context, those details disappear even faster. Eventually, all these different ideas get blended together and labeled as one thing. The government is sending checks. That is where the misunderstanding begins. Someone sees a short clip online mentioning big payments next year. Another person hears a friend say, "Don't worry, something is coming." Then a text message arrives claiming you qualify for thousands of dollars if you act quickly. None of these sources explain what kind of money they're talking about or whether it's real at all. And when everyday costs feel heavier, groceries, medications, insurance, repairs, it becomes very easy to want that message to be true. But wanting something to be true does not make it accurate. What's happening right now is not one clear program. It's a mixture of real adjustments, misunderstood information, and speculation about ideas that may never become reality. Until those pieces are separated, confusion will continue to grow. That's why slowing down and looking at each piece carefully matters more than ever. What people expect when they hear money from the government. When most people hear the phrase money from the government, a very specific picture comes to mind. They imagine something new, extra cash, a payment meant to help people get ahead during hard times. That expectation makes sense, especially for those who remember the pandemic years. Back then, stimulus checks arrived clearly, publicly, and with a clear purpose. They were designed to help families survive an emergency. But that expectation is exactly where today's confusion begins, because most of what is being discussed right now is not new money at all. A large portion of these so-called checks are actually tax refunds. And a tax refund has a very simple meaning. It means you paid more into the system than you owed, and now you're getting some of that money back. That is not a gift. That is not assistance. That is not stimulus. It is your own money returning to you. Due to changes in tax rules and how much is withheld during the year, some people may see refunds that look larger than expected. And when that check arrives, it can feel like a blessing, especially when bills are piling up. Many seniors use refunds to pay medical expenses, fix something around the house, or help a family member. That relief is real and it matters, but it's important to stay grounded in the truth. A refund doesn't mean the government suddenly decided to send extra help. It means too much was taken out earlier. Understanding that difference protects expectations and protects peace of mind. Bigger paychecks don't mean free money. Another major source of confusion comes from something many people are noticing in their paychecks. You may hear someone say, "I'm getting more money now. The government must be giving us extra." But what's really happening here is much simpler and far less dramatic. In many cases, this increase comes from lower tax withholdings. That means less money is being taken out of each paycheck during the year. Instead of waiting until tax season to get a refund, some of that money stays with you right away. On the surface, it can feel like a raise, but nothing new is being created. It's simply a shift in timing. When more money stays in your paycheck now, it usually means the refund at the end of the year will be smaller. You're receiving your own money earlier, not receiving extra money overall. This distinction matters, especially for seniors who carefully plan their budgets. If someone assumes these changes mean additional income, they may spend more during the year, only to be surprised later when their refund doesn't arrive as expected. There's no magic happening behind the scenes, no bonus, no stimulus, just a different flow of the same dollars. Understanding this helps avoid financial whiplash. It allows people to plan realistically instead of reacting emotionally. And in times when every dollar counts, clarity about where your money is coming from and where it isn't can make all the difference. The truth about future programs and government proposals. Another reason these rumors keep growing is the constant talk about possible future programs. You may hear interviews, clips, or articles where someone mentions dividends, relief plans, or benefits that could happen down the road. These conversations often begin in policy discussions, budget debates, or political commentary. On their own, that's normal. The problem starts when these ideas travel online. By the time they reach Facebook, TikTok, or YouTube Shorts, words like discussion and proposal quietly disappear. What remains is a confident-sounding message that feels final, guaranteed, and urgent. But here's the truth that often gets lost. A proposal is not a program. Until something is officially passed into law, clearly explained, and publicly announced by trusted federal agencies, it does not exist as a benefit you can count on. Conversations are not policies. Ideas are not payments. Right now, most of what people are hearing about falls into three categories: tax refunds, paycheck adjustments, and speculation about what might happen in the future. None of those are stimulus checks. This doesn't mean nothing will ever change. Governments discuss new ideas all the time, but planning your finances around money that hasn't been approved or may never exist creates unnecessary stress and false hope. The safest approach is always the same. Wait for official confirmation, clear rules, and public announcements. Anything else is just noise. And in uncertain times, learning to ignore noise is a powerful form of financial protection. Why calling? All of this, stimulus, is misleading. One word has caused more confusion than almost anything else in this conversation. That word is stimulus. For many Americans, especially seniors, stimulus brings back strong memories. During the pandemic, stimulus checks were real. They were passed through specific legislation. They were clearly announced. And they were designed to help people survive an emergency. That's why using the same word today feels comforting. It creates the impression that help is on the way again. But using that word right now is misleading. True stimulus programs do not arrive quietly. They don't spread through rumors. They don't show up as vague promises in online videos. Real stimulus requires formal votes, written laws, and official communication from trusted federal agencies. You don't need a stranger on the internet to unlock it. You don't need to click a link, and you don't need to rush. When someone claims stimulus is coming but can't point to an official source, that's a signal to pause. Right now, what's being discussed is mostly about returning overpaid taxes, adjusting how income is withheld, and debating future possibilities. Those things can feel helpful, but they do not function like stimulus. They don't suddenly boost the economy, they don't solve rising costs, and they don't mean extra money automatically appears just because times are difficult. Understanding this difference helps protect people from disappointment and from decisions based on false expectations. Why hope feels so strong when costs keep rising. It's important to acknowledge something very human in all of this. When prices keep going up, hope becomes powerful. Groceries cost more than they used to, insurance premiums rise, prescriptions feel heavier on the budget. Repairs that once seemed manageable now require careful planning. For seniors living on fixed incomes, these increases aren't abstract. They're felt every single month. So when people hear the word stimulus, it doesn't just sound like money, it sounds like relief. like breathing room, like someone finally understands how tight things feel. There is nothing wrong with wanting that. Hope is not weakness, but hope becomes dangerous when it's built on information that isn't solid. When expectations grow around money that hasn't been confirmed, people may delay necessary decisions. They may wait to fix something. They may postpone bills, or they may mentally spend money that hasn't arrived and may never arrive. That emotional swing can be exhausting. The truth is, if real stimulus were coming, it would be impossible to miss. It would be announced clearly. It would be covered widely by reliable news outlets, and no one would need to search social media to find it. Until that happens, the healthiest mindset is steady realism. Yes, refunds may come. Yes, paychecks may feel slightly different. And yes, conversations about future programs will continue, but none of those should be treated as guaranteed rescue. Peace of mind comes from planning with what you know, not hoping for what might be. Why refunds feel like relief, not extra money. There is an important reality about tax refunds that rarely gets talked about honestly. When those refunds finally arrive, they don't usually feel like a reward. They feel like relief. Over the years, many seniors have learned that a refund often goes to things that quietly fell behind. A medical bill that wasn't fully covered by insurance, a refrigerator that's been making noise for months, a car repair that kept getting postponed because something else felt more urgent. For many households, refunds are not used to get ahead. They are used to get current. That distinction matters. When people hear that checks are coming, their minds naturally jump to the idea of freedom. Maybe a small trip, a new purchase, or finally relaxing a bit financially. But in reality, most refunds disappear quickly because they are filling gaps that already exist. They help stabilize life, not transform it. And there is no shame in that. Using a refund to repair, replace, refill, and recover is responsible. It means you are addressing real needs. But this is also why calling these checks stimulus creates false expectations. Stimulus suggests abundance. Refunds simply close the gap. Once the bills are paid and the essentials are handled, the money is gone. Understanding this truth allows people to approach refunds with clarity instead of disappointment, and to plan for stability rather than miracles. Why refunds rarely create lasting financial freedom. There is another hard truth about refunds that many people don't expect until they experience it themselves. Even when the amount looks meaningful on paper, refunds rarely create lasting financial relief. That's because most seniors don't receive refunds when life is comfortable. Refunds usually arrive after a year of stretching, adjusting, and quietly compensating for rising costs. By the time the money shows up, it already has a job waiting for it. Bills that were delayed get paid. Repairs that couldn't wait any longer finally happen. Balances that caused quiet stress get cleared. And once those responsibilities are handled, there's often little left. This is why refunds don't change long-term financial security. They don't raise monthly income. They don't lower future expenses. And they don't protect against the next unexpected cost. They help close yesterday's gaps. When refunds are mistaken for stimulus, people may expect them to do something they simply aren't designed to do. That misunderstanding can lead to frustration, especially when someone hoped the money would finally allow them to relax. But refunds aren't meant to carry you forward. They are meant to balance the past. Recognizing this helps reset expectations in a healthy way. Instead of asking, why didn't this change everything? The question becomes, how can I use this wisely to feel more stable right now? That shift from disappointment to intention makes all the difference, because financial peace doesn't come from big moments. It comes from reducing stress, one responsible decision at a time. The growing risk of scams during times of confusion. Whenever there is confusion about government money, scams are never far behind. This is the part that causes the most harm, and the part that deserves the most attention. Scammers pay close attention to headlines and rumors. When they sense uncertainty and hope, they move quickly. They send text messages that look official. They use government-style language. They include words like urgent, final notice, or time-sensitive. Some claim you have a $2,000 or $5,000 benefit waiting. Others say you must act now to avoid losing it. Almost all of them include a link, and that is where the danger begins. The federal government does not send random text messages asking you to claim money. The IRS does not ask you to enter banking information through a link. No legitimate agency will ever require a processing fee to release a benefit. These messages are designed to create panic. They rely on the fear of missing out and the hope that relief has finally arrived. For seniors, this can feel especially personal. Many people simply want to believe the help is real. Scammers know that, and they exploit it. The safest response is always the same. Pause. Do not click. Do not reply. Do not share information. If something is legitimate, it will still be legitimate tomorrow. Real programs don't disappear overnight. Protecting yourself isn't paranoia. It's wisdom earned through experience. How to protect yourself from payment-related scams. Protecting yourself starts with one simple habit: slowing down. Scammers succeed by creating urgency. They want you to feel rushed, pressured, or afraid that you'll lose something if you don't act immediately. That emotional push is what bypasses caution. So the moment a message makes you feel tense, that's your signal to stop. If you receive a call, text, or email claiming to be from the government, the IRS, or a financial agency, remember this rule: legitimate agencies do not initiate contact this way. They do not demand instant action, and they do not shame or threaten you for asking questions. Never click on links sent to you about benefits or payments. Instead, go directly to official websites by typing the address yourself. If you're unsure, ask someone you trust, a family member, your bank, your tax preparer, to look at it with you. There is no embarrassment in double-checking. In fact, scammers rely on silence and isolation. The moment you involve another set of eyes, their power fades. And if anyone ever pressures you, rushes you, or makes you feel foolish for being careful, that alone is reason enough to walk away. You have worked too hard for your savings to let confusion or fear put them at risk. Caution is not fear. It is wisdom built over a lifetime, and it deserves respect. Why planning before the money arrives matters. Once we set aside the noise and the rumors, an important question remains. If refunds or adjustments do arrive, what should we do with them? This is where calm planning makes a real difference. A refund should never be treated like a surprise gift. It's a resource, and resources work best when they have direction before they arrive. Instead of waiting emotionally for the money, thoughtful planning asks a quieter question: what would bring the most peace if this money shows up? For many seniors, the answer isn't exciting, but it is powerful. Stability comes first. That may mean rebuilding a small emergency cushion so the next unexpected expense doesn't feel like a crisis. It may mean finally paying off a lingering bill that's been quietly causing stress, or it may mean catching up on medical appointments or prescriptions that were delayed because money felt tight. There is a misconception that money must be used for something big to be meaningful. But in reality, peace of mind is one of the most valuable returns money can provide. Using funds to stabilize your life is not settling. It is responsible. It is wise. When planning happens before the money arrives, decisions are calmer. There is less regret, less pressure, and less emotional spending. And that steady approach often matters more than the amount itself. Choosing stability over pressure and expectations. One quiet challenge many seniors face is pressure. Pressure to do something impressive with their money. Sometimes that pressure comes from advertising. Sometimes it comes from friends or family. And sometimes it comes from an inner voice saying, I should be doing more. But financial responsibility doesn't have to look impressive. It has to feel stable. When refunds or adjustments arrive, there is often an unspoken expectation to treat yourself or make a noticeable change. But spending simply to meet an expectation, your own or someone else's, rarely brings lasting comfort. What brings comfort is knowing the essentials are covered. A paid bill you no longer worry about, a small reserve for car maintenance or medical needs, a sense that next month won't feel quite as tight. Those outcomes may not look exciting from the outside, but they matter deeply on the inside. Marketing will always encourage spending. It rarely encourages protection. Yet protection is what creates sleep at night peace, the kind that doesn't disappear when the credit card statement arrives. Choosing stability is not a lack of ambition. It is a choice to honor your current reality and protect your future. And if there is money left after stability is restored, that's when thoughtful planning can gently turn forward. Not with urgency, not with pressure, but with intention. That approach builds confidence, not just in your finances, but in yourself. Clarity creates calm in uncertain times. As we step back and look at the bigger picture, it becomes clear that this moment is about more than just checks. It's about how we live with uncertainty. There will always be headlines promising something new. There will always be videos speaking with confidence about money that may never arrive. And there will always be rumors that sound hopeful during difficult times. But after years of working with seniors, one truth stands out above all others. Clarity creates calm. When you understand what something truly is, a refund, not stimulus, an adjustment, not a windfall, you stop waiting for miracles. Your shoulders relax, your decisions become steadier. We may not control government policy, we may not control inflation or the news cycle, but we do control how we respond. We can choose not to chase rumors. We can choose not to build plans around money that hasn't arrived. We can choose to rely on verified information instead of loud voices online. Most importantly, we can choose to protect the peace of mind we've spent a lifetime building. Yes, you may hear that the government is sending out checks, but no, it is not stimulus. Most of what's being discussed involves tax refunds, changes in withholding, and conversations that may or may not turn into real programs. Those refunds can help. They can keep life steady, but they rarely move us ahead, and that's okay. Real financial strength isn't built through surprise checks. It's built through slow, thoughtful decisions made over time, and that strength is something no headline can take away. Peace of mind is worth protecting, and it begins with knowing the truth.